Way too early look at Georgia's offense in 2025. Looking like it could be an improvement from 2024, but hey, that's something that we talked about a year ago. Was Georgia's offense going to be even better with another year of Carson Beck? Ultimately, Georgia's offense took a very noticeable dip in 2024 from the previous, 3-4 seasons where it was really good. And even last year, with Mike Bobo and Carson Beck in the first year, Georgia's offense was really, really good. What was one of the biggest differences? No Brock Bowers, no Lavin Conkey, no NFL talent on the outside. Really, that was one of the biggest differences. The offensive line regressed in its play. The running backs, they didn't pop as much. Part of that is a culmination of all of it. And now Kirby's gone. He's hit the transfer portal. And you know who the quarterback's going to be with Gunnar Stockton. I'd be surprised if it's not. He could get beat out. It's possible, but I think there's a reason why he was the guy for Carson Beck. I think there is a reason why people are excited about him, and it's because he can sling it. He can sling it, and you would think that he's going to get better as time goes on, especially when, this offense really is catered to him, and this program is catered to him being the starting quarterback. Let's talk about it, because I think that some guys made some huge decisions. Some people decided to leave. Some people decided to stay. Let's talk about Georgia's offense at quarterback. Gunnar Stockton, QB1. Ryan Puglisi is going to be QB2. He will be a redshirt freshman, right? Because he's going to get that red shirt from this past year. Didn't play. I think that, we've talked about Gunnar Stockton a lot. So this is not about Gunnar Stockton. I'm not going to talk about him too much. Puglisi should be the backup, I think, right? This is projecting it. It's still way too early. Things can change in the spring. Things can change in fall camp. But I know that's what's going to happen. What do you need to know about Puglisi? He's taller, right? He's got more of a Carson Beck type build. He's got more of a Carson Beck type arm. It's closer to that, right? So that's kind of the difference there in terms of the zip and kind of how the ball comes out. It comes out quicker from Ryan Puglisi. There's a little bit more zip on it. I haven't seen Puglisi, but in moments in practice and in moments in warm-ups, and that's what I noticed from Ryan Puglisi. Running backs. Huge news when Trevor Etienne decided to stay. And I think that was big. I had a debate with a friend about that the other day, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post newsletter is down below. Make sure you're checking that out. We're still giving you content on the website, and it's still good content. Just because it's the off season, right? I blanked on what I was going to say there, but just because it's the off season doesn't mean we're not giving it to you. I'm giving it to you right now. Frazier and Etienne, I think, will make up one of the better duos in college football. Trevor Etienne, I think you made the right decision, man, to return to Georgia. I think that was the right decision. When you look at this running back class for the NFL draft here in a few months, Ashton Jeanty, I'm just going to start naming people that I would probably take over Trevor Etienne. And that's just me, off of what I know and off the top of my head, because there's that many guys. Ashton Jeanty, Cam Scattaboo, Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, right? That's 4 right there. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is going to be a good running back. That's just me quickly off the top of my head. A few backs. There are more than that. There's Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, who's got a good chance to be drafted in a respectable round. This running back class is way more loaded. He has an opportunity to be RB1, RB2 in the next class. Go back to Georgia, have a healthier season, have a better season where you and Nate Frazier can form a tandem behind a new offensive line, because that is going to be talked about. And I want to get to the offensive line after I finish with the rest of the offensive weapons, just kind of projecting it. But, the running backs, look, but it's going to be the same running back room. You're going to have Frazier, you're going to have Etienne, you're going to have the Robinsons, at least if they're healthy. And to my knowledge, Cash Jones has decided to return at the moment. That's the one that I'm unsure about. And he does make a difference, right? Cash Jones would make a difference in the passing game. But I think a tandem between Etienne and Frazier that is healthy, and now you get Frazier in year 2. Maybe Frazier deals with some of the fumbling issues. He's a little bit more mature. He sees it a little bit better. You would think that would be better. It does depend on the offensive line, partially, and if its performance and the whole cohesive unit as an offense. But the run game cannot be as bad as it was in 2024 when they ran for fewer than 2,000 yards. And they only put up 1,700 yards in 14 games. It's just not good enough if you're Georgia. 129-ish roughly yards per game around that 130 mark. It's the worst in a long time. And I think that Etienne and Frazier can form a formidable duo with the depth behind it and Branson and Roderick Robinson hopefully not being injured, right, for Georgia's sake. And I think Cash Jones, I think in terms of depth there, I think they're fine as long as those two main workhorses stay healthy. I think that they form a formidable duo. Wide receiver. This is where you think you're seeing the biggest improvement if you're Georgia from 2024 to 2025. Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas were two big-time transfer portal recruits. Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. This guy's 6'6", had 500 yards, 8 touchdowns this year, 14.7 yards per catch in an offense that was not catered around the passing game as much, especially when Marcel Reed was out there, right? Texas A&M was more of a run-heavy offense this past season. Le'Veon Moss, Marcel Reed forming, a fun read option duo there. I'm blanking on the running back that was the primary back after Le'Veon Moss got hurt. But once they benched Connor Wigman, the passing game took a hit, and it was Marcel Reed. And Noah Thomas should benefit from going to Georgia. You didn't get that in Kobe Young or Ra Thomas, ex-receivers that they brought in from the transfer portal to be guys on the outside that could potentially be number ones on the outside, can get 50-50 balls, can make big plays. Both for off-the-field issues, do not play for Georgia that last season. Obviously, Kobe Young plays a little bit, but doesn't play the majority of the season and is certainly not there when it really matters towards the end of the season. Well, now you get Noah Thomas at wide receiver, who's 6'6". He's experienced in the conference, and he can be a big weapon on the outside, something that they were lacking this past season, especially in crunch time moments. Pair that with Zachariah Branch, potentially the most explosive player in the transfer portal, and one of the most explosive offensive players in the entire country, one of the most explosive special teams players in the entire country, Zachariah Branch. I think bringing them in and essentially replacing Dominic Lovett, Arian Smith, Kobe Young, I don't know what the situation there is with his eligibility. Maybe he comes back, but you're replacing those guys with these guys. Can Zachariah Branch be a better version of Arian Smith while also working as a slot receiver? I think Branch is a more complete receiver than Arian Smith with the speed and explosion. Maybe not quite as fast, but has it. He has that. And I think that it should help Georgia's offense. You couple that with Dylan Bell, decided to return, now a guy that's coming into year 4 in Georgia's system. And quick blurb on Dylan Bell, Georgia wanted him back. That's what going after and getting Micah Bell, his little brother, in the transfer portal, that's what that tells me. Georgia wanted Dylan Bell around. And he regressed this past season. He had drops in key moments. He had some big plays in some other moments. He was a guy that we projected, especially Dawg Post projected, was going to be a big weapon for Georgia in 2024. And he regressed, and he had drop problems, and he wasn't as good, and he wasn't making those contested catches. Maybe he just needs a reset. Maybe that's the case. And he will get that. He'll get that opportunity to reset this season and claim that primary spot on the depth chart as potentially Georgia's number 1 receiver. He'll be fighting with Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch for that. Younger guys, Nitro Tuggle, Sokovie White, a 4-star and a 3-star recruit from the 2024 class, freshman who played very sparingly. I think that they can move up on the depth chart. You also have London Humphreys, the transfer from a year ago from Vanderbilt, who made some plays early on in the season, more so. All right, he provides depth. He provides another option. He provides size and speed. So I think in terms of Georgia's primary wide receivers, you're looking good. That's not even talking about what if one of those freshmen breaks out and plays next season. C.J. Wiley, Talon Tabor, Ethan Barbour is kind of a tight end wide receiver mix, if you ask me. Landon Roldan, they've got some guys that seem like they could be studs at the next level, especially Talon Tabor, a guy from up in Chicago. Go watch his highlights if you haven't seen him. I think Georgia's wide receiver room is in better hands. Tight ends, kind of going to get the same thing. You're going to get Lawson Lucky, you're going to get Oscar Delp, and you're going to get Jaden Riddell, who I think is going to play a little bit. He'll be a redshirt freshman. Riddell, he wears number 23. He's 6'4". He's 220 pounds. He reminds me of Bowers a little bit. No, he's not Brock Bowers. No one's Brock Bowers. But I think that he's kind of in that same mold of a Lawson Lucky, a Brock Bowers, like that athletic vertical threat wide receiver that's not there to block necessarily. To me, that's Jaden Riddell, and I think that he does have some blocking skills, and I think you're going to see him out on the field. Georgia's tight end room, about the same, another year of experience. The offensive line's getting overhauled. Dylan Fairchild, Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, Xavier Truss. That's 4 primary starters off the offensive line room gone. What do you get? You get 3 guys who have played. Monroe Freeling, Micah Morris, Ernest Green. Probably all going to start. I would guess Monroe Freeling and Ernest Green are the tackles unless something happens. All right, and they've all played. They've all started games. Micah Morris rotated with Dylan Fairchild a lot in 2023. Not so much in 2024. Fairchild kind of beat him out for that job. Fairchild ends up being an All-American, and Fairchild ends up declaring for the NFL draft. So I think it'll be Morris. Some people like Morris better. Drew Bobo is probably going to be the center. And then, there's one spot I can't quite figure out, but there's a lot of young guys it could be at that guard spot. And we know how they like to cross-train these players. But you've got guys like from this past class, a lot of big dudes. You got huge guys from this 2024 class. Daniel Calhoun, Jazier Jackson, Michael Unini, Nair Daniels. You've got another guy who was a redshirt freshman this past year in Bo Hewley. So they've got that depth. It's just a matter of who wins that job out. They certainly have at least one spot to figure out. I think they've got 3 or 4 of them figured out, to be quite honest with you. So that's my take on the offensive line there. But that's what Georgia's offense is going to look like if you ask me right now. Ask me again in a few months in the spring. And I'll be glad to tell you, because I'm sure it'll change a little bit once we get into spring practice and once we get to see these guys in the scrimmages and at G-Day. That's the new look offense for Georgia. Way too early look. Thank you for watching.